All right, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll start off where everyone else does. As far as earliest childhood memories, what are we getting into?
When I think back to my earliest childhood memories, it's kind of it's kind of hard to think back to one specific memory, I guess. So I kind of think back to schools
Okay.
and the house that I was living at, in a sense.
Yeah.
So I think back to my very first school. So I remember in kindergarten, like my very first kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Smells like hand sanitizer and
Okay.
like ham sandwiches.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember preschool because I remember I only went to that school for a year, but I was in a closet because I was told I couldn't play with the glue anymore because I just put it all over my
On your
hand.
hands?
Yeah, and I would just peel it off. That was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, look at this. I'm
Yeah.
like a new skin. Like it's
I
super
used to do the
cool.
same thing.
Yeah, and then in kindergarten, like it just in the elementary school, I would like chase girls and like that was the thing that you did. But then like I didn't know what to do when if I ever caught up to the girl. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, you chase me now. Like what do we do here? Like I
Yep.
didn't really get past that step.
That's awesome.
So growing up, we'll say elementary school time, was that an enjoyable time at family and school?
Um, I did move schools quite often.
Okay.
So I've been to 4 or 5 different schools
In elementary school or
in all, like
okay,
it
okay,
from like kindergarten to high school. I was at
gotcha.
4 different schools.
Okay.
So I kind of jumped around a lot, and I think I struggled like holding down a friendship in a sense,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I was jumping around so often.
Were
Um,
you setting things on fire or was family moving around a lot? What was going on?
it was kind of, I think we moved once,
Okay.
but then it just kind of didn't want us to go to a different school, so then we
Yeah.
went to one and then went back. Anyways, but I remember like my brother and I used to be really close friends with another set of siblings each
Yeah.
school. So my brother and I were very close hanging
Mhm.
out with like another brother sister combo kind of
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. So at a young age, what was the parents' rules as far as like going outside the house and playing when you're young? They say, "Hey, just go play and come back when it gets dark," or were they stricter on you when you were younger?
No, my parents were very
Okay.
loose ruled. We lived in a rural location, so it's kind of
Okay.
just like playing out in the yard and then
Yeah.
coming back in whenever we wanted. Um,
What did we have for us in the yard? Did we have a nice ditch? Did we have some trees? Did we have a tree fort?
we had a trampoline
Okay, nice.
and we had a forest next to it, so my brother and I would spend a lot of time kind of adventuring and being very imaginative in the forest.
There you go.
Um, and I also remember this pile of we had like a fence that was up and they took it down and they hadn't
Yeah.
disposed of it quite yet. So my brother and I would play like, I don't know if you know the show Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yes. Yep.
So I would wear like tall boots and put a wand in my boot because I just
Yeah.
wanted to be a wizard so bad.
And was this after school, just on weekends? When was this going on?
Yeah, I don't I don't remember quite a lot of my daily activity of my
Yeah,
childhood. But whenever my brother and I had some free time, we
that's
definitely
nice.
try
So,
and do that.
were you in a lot of sports when you were younger, after school activities?
Um, I did hockey
Okay.
for a lot, so I was rep hockey. So I was on weekends.
Were you in Michigan? Or where are we playing hockey?
I live in Canada, so
Oh, okay.
I'm in Ontario. So I was playing around there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I would play. It was like all every weekend was kind of hockey, and also some we'd have to get up at like 6 a.m. before school and do a
Okay.
practice. And also summers we'd spend at like training camps and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I also did dirt biking for a little bit,
Nice.
soccer. I was pretty active when I was younger, but it kind of dwindled off once I got older.
So when you're getting into those activities, Is that something that either one of your parents are like, hey, I really want you to do this because I did it? Or how did you pick those sports?
The dirt biking was definitely influenced by my dad. That
Okay,
was
nice.
that was his thing. And I'm not really sure. I think my dad had potentially wanted to play hockey when he was little, so he kind of
Yeah,
wanted to see his kids do that. He was our coach for 1 year. Like he
nice.
kind of taught himself how to skate or play
Yeah.
hockey so he could do that for his kids.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Sounds like a very supportive father figure growing up. At what point did you ever see your dad as like, hey, this is like kind of like a role model, or he like went out of his way to do these things for me? Because I feel like at a young age, it's kind of just like is. Was there ever a time where like, oh man, like he's killing
Yeah, I definitely did not appreciate it much when I was little.
it?
I was, just kind of the older daughter parent combo was
Yeah.
gnarly. But I think when I realized how his love language was,
Hmm.
I kind of learned how to appreciate the things that he did a little bit more
Yeah.
because there was care and love behind it.
Right. Well, and it's so strange now that I'm a parent. I'm like, I thought my parents knew everything. Like you were just like barely knew more than me. I'm like, how? Like this is
I knew that they
why?
didn't,
I'm
but
like,
yeah,
it's like
everyone's learning.
you did like you didn't learn anything in school like to prepare you for this. Like
Yeah,
this is like you learned from your parents that talked even less to you guys. Come on.
yeah,
This is
exactly.
wild. I at least have like the internet where I can ask it questions. Like you were just winging it
That's what,
or going to the library. Like, come on.
yeah, yeah.
So growing up in Canada, so I would go up I think once a year to I really want to say it's Toronto.
Mhm.
Is that oh my goodness. Now all I can remember is there's an Olympic pool nearby and it's fairly close to the border. This is not looking good as an American.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, I wouldn't even be able to tell you where the Olympic pool was, so that's okay.
now I'm pretty sure it's right on the lake, but I don't know which lake.
Sure.
Um, this is
Niagara
so
Falls
funny.
is kind of close to the border.
Okay.
Toronto is probably like 3 hours away from a border,
Yeah,
but
I would say it's Toronto.
all right.
I had a great grandma that lived in Vancouver, which was
Oh,
beautiful. It's like
I
this
just traveled there this summer.
oh, it's so nice.
It's
It,
very
it's
gorgeous.
it's very nice. And then we would actually go to Savory Island every 2 to 3 years, which is up there-ish, but it was very nice. It was probably 7 miles by a mile and a half, where there wasn't really too much technology there.
Yeah,
There was like one, I wasn't even an Airbnb, it was like an actual bed and breakfast.
yeah.
But the rest was just like rich people on one side and then other people that would just like rent out places. But that is what I am recalling from my times in Canada of late.
Awesome. Did you drive there? You flew
So
there
so
every single
we
time?
we would drive there if we were visiting our family in Canada.
Wow.
It was like a 10-hour drive. My
Mm.
dad would always think he's hilarious because we'd go to a McDonald's and be like, "Man, everything is in Canadian here." It's like, "I'll have a burger, eh?" And I'm like, "Thought that I thought it was gold." I'm like, "This is hilarious."
Yeah. I went to the
Um,
States for the first time this last December.
okay,
I kind of had a little bit of time off work and I just wanted to do my first solo road trip.
yeah,
I had flown to tropical places, but
okay,
I'd never been into the States like driving or anything like
yeah.
that. So, I drove to Cleveland.
Why? Why?
That's what they said too. Why are you going to Cleveland? But Machine Gun Kelly, he's
Okay,
a artist.
yep,
He has a cafe there. So I
okay,
went to see that and it was actually an amazing trip.
yeah,
Um, but it was funny because I went out for dinner and just kind of sat at the bar by myself and
yeah.
I was making friends and everything and they're like, "Oh, I love Canadians." And I just had this misconception that they weren't gonna like me when I got there or something like that.
Well, I think it's so the in general when I was growing up, like my family, I'd say we would we would talk through our problems. If we had an issue with one another, we would most likely just like bring it up and be like, "Oh, I thought this, you thought that, not that big of a deal, or maybe it was a big deal, whatever it
Yeah.
was." And then when I started like venturing out like into like friend groups and stuff, I'm like, your parents like fight when they're like when they have problems going on, or you guys just like don't talk about it, and then it's just like you get into society and it's like, oh, like all the stuff I see in the internet is like everybody hates everybody. But then
Yeah.
once you get back to that closer connection, it's like most people aren't that bad. It's
No,
yeah.
they're very kind if you're just kind to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were younger, did you travel a lot with your parents and where did you like to go?
Um, Not very much. We would go camping
Okay.
occasionally. And we did go to Jamaica once and Costa Rica once. So that
Oh,
was
nice.
pretty nice. Um, but I do love to camp, so
Yeah.
that
So
was
okay, so my is so funny. My parents would always go camping like with another group of families so that like all the kids and stuff like would play together. But now
yeah.
I'm like, Mom, I got kids, we should go camping. And she's like, no, that's like like I'll get like a cabin. We gotta make sure it's like, or we'll rent an RV or something. I'm like, Mom, what do you mean
Right.
cabin? She's like, I did it for you guys. Like I didn't enjoy it. I'm like watching wilderness shows. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, absolutely not.
That's hilarious.
What do you like about camping so much?
I really like being disconnected.
Okay.
So I like having to kind of problem solve
Yeah.
and um like I remember I lost power at my apartment a couple years ago and I just took the barbecue out back and
Yeah.
figured out how to survive with my cooler and my
Yeah.
little barbecue. I really thrive in that.
Yeah.
My friend calls me pioneer lady
Okay.
because I just kind of like I kind of like that
Yeah.
disconnected off grid kind of lifestyle.
Did you do a lot of camping where you're like, oh, I really enjoy this type of stuff, or where do you think that kind of came from?
Yeah, I think so. And also I think the houses I lived in were never kind of finished.
Okay.
So it all kind of felt like roughing it in a sense.
Yeah.
So I thrived in that.
Hmm. When you say they're unfinished, is that just like projects that your parents didn't get to, or it's just like, hey, this is what we can afford? What was the situation?
Yeah. They like to rip walls down and then we'll figure it out after that.
I have a friend that whenever his wife would go on a trip and like he is in construction work,
Mhm.
um, she'd come back and he would have ripped a wall down and she's like, well, that like unfortunate. And then one time, literally, he took the stairs out and like, well, we gotta take a ladder upstairs. But you have two children with a third on the way. Your wife is pregnant. What are you
Yeah.
doing? It worked
Yeah.
out. He made gorgeous floating stairs, but you know what? You made it work.
That's nice. Yeah, we made it work. I don't know if there was ever really a solidified plan, but
Yeah,
we're
there
here
there was
now.
something going on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at some differences here. I remember growing up, we would do the Pledge of Allegiance in like elementary school. I can't remember us doing it in middle school. But did you have any type of situation like that when you were growing up?
We did like the national anthem, like "Oh Canada" in the morning.
Every day?
I believe so. Yeah, you'd kind
That's
of
that's some time right there.
not in high school, but yeah, from kindergarten to eighth grade, I believe that's
Yeah.
what we did.
What
I
was
can't
there
remember high school.
was there ever a time, because I would say like growing up for us, like there was always pride in your country until there's a certain time it's like, oh, look what your country has done.
Yeah,
Then it swings back and forth depending on the day.
yeah.
Uh, but for you, was there ever like, did school ever question like the country at all, or what was the vibe when you're going through schooling?
I think high school maybe I became
Okay.
more aware of things like that,
Yeah.
but I don't think the school was ever
Okay.
like
You didn't
deciding
have
on
that
that.
one teacher?
Oh, I'm sure there was some opinionated teachers, but
Yeah.
not that were surrounding me, I don't think.
Yeah, it seemed as if there's always one or two teachers that would be like, "Oh, this your history teacher isn't telling you this information." I'm like, "What do you mean? They're a teacher. They got this is my go-to person on information. What do we got going on here?
Yeah.
So you were saying that you stopped doing as much sports as you were going towards high school. What happened there?
Yeah. I'm not really sure. As soon as I got to high school, I think I did soccer 1 year, but I honestly really wish I would have joined a school sport. And I always kind of had the intention, but
Yeah,
could never get myself out of bed to get to like tryouts or anything like that. I don't
yeah,
really my discipline dwindled or something. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, for us, my parents like you're either in a sport or you're working, and I'm like, boom, in a sport.
Well,
Like
that's
that.
I kind of went the other way.
Okay,
I started working like
yeah,
the summer between ninth and 10th grade.
okay. What
Yeah.
what kind of jobs were we hitting up?
I was working at Rona. So I was a cashier and then
Okay,
I was there for 4 or 5 years. So then I was after high school,
yeah.
I was the sales desk.
Is Rona a grocery store or what's Rona?
Like Lowe's, Rona and
Oh,
Lowe's,
okay,
like a
okay.
hardware store.
Now there had to be at least one good story while working there.
Oh,
What
there is a
what do you got?
lot. There's a lot.
Let's go. Let's first start with uh kind of like a welcome to the workforce thing. Like what was your best story there?
Well, being a woman dealing with lumber, men
Okay.
will not ask you questions. They will wait until the man right beside you is done
Oh,
on the phone. So I built thick skin up pretty quick, but
yeah.
they were asking for the price of a 2x4 and would wait until the other guy was done. So there's that, or there's just snippy people on the phone. Very nice people also. It's not just negative. There's people that restore your faith in humanity.
Yeah.
Um, or a
Wait, so the I feel like this whole Canadian thing is getting thrown out the window. They just was it mostly a lumber thing, or like were the other places at work where there's like, oh, you're a woman, I'm gonna
um, well, I'm a painter right now, so I'm
okay,
still in the trades kind of area,
yeah,
and I don't get it as much. Honestly, people respect me quite because I'm just as able-bodied as anyone else. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's been some awkward situations, but
I guess it is a predominantly male dominated work area, so that makes some sense there. Um,
I'm pretty strong on the job site though, so they all know.
that's good.
Yeah.
So you start off learning a little bit of that. What else was happening there? That was interesting.
At Rona, a
Yeah.
customer could not handle his bowels and literally pooped on the floor and then
Oh
walked
no.
out.
So do you just pretend not to see it and then you just like, oh, I'm taking lunch or like how?
Well, I was kind
So
of standing there. I was taking a picture of my manager with the shovel in her hand.
that's wild.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of wild. But I learned a lot. It was a very pivotal point in my life. Like, I don't think I would be the person I am without that job.
Yeah, I mean, men need prices from wood. They're not going to ask you, and they're also just going to poop on your floor. So that's
Yeah, but I learned a lot. And
so.
I love
You,
the trades, so I
yeah,
kind of was asked questions about. I had my work dad, which I called my he was like a 40-year-old man that
yeah.
taught me anything that I wanted to learn. I would not know what a part was in an aisle, and
Mhm.
we'd kind of go down the whole rundown of what it was.
Well, it's very interesting because you can definitely tell the people that are there because they just have to work. Like
Hmm.
they just won't know anything.
Yeah.
And like I would say when I go to a Walmart, on occasion, I'll ask where something is, and instead of like knowing exactly where it is, they're like look at their phone, they'll type it in, and they'll just go, "It's over there."
Yeah. Definitely
And like,
had to do that sometimes, but
like,
you learn where the
yeah,
things are.
yeah, yeah. Then it sounds like for you, you were learning and enjoying, and that was something that wasn't just a task; it was something that was
I
included in your life.
I definitely take pride in my work. I like to be very
Yeah.
confident in what I'm doing. Um, so at the end of, or not at the end, but I'd say probably like 2 years in, I'd be like, "Yep, aisle four,
Yeah.
4 feet in, like 2 feet up," and they,
Where do you think the pride in your work came from in your life?
I think, I think both my parents are like that. They like
Okay.
to be confident in their work and show that they're very capable.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, my dad's been doing his job since he was 17, so he's
Wow.
pretty, yeah, he's a power line technician, so
Okay.
he's they like to do good work.
Yeah. Well, now it makes sense why there was a lot of projects at home as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
would you say it was mostly leading by example, not necessarily saying, "Hey, you need to do this."
Oh,
It was
definitely.
okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. At home, what did cooking or nutrition or health look like at home? What was either the discussion around it, if there was one?
Food is kind of like my biggest joy.
Okay.
So I'm like a big part of my heritage is Italian. My
Okay.
dad's side is Italian, and that's I like to identify with that part. But my nana, I remember having we would bake cookies when I was little and make lemonade stands at her
Yeah.
house, and it wasn't so much talked about as nutrition really
Mhm.
growing up. I think it was just kind of like you had to eat, you had to be
Yeah.
fed, and it was always a good time when your family could get around and eat together. And my mom would just use what we had. Like
Mm.
she would make these delicious like concoctions, and my family really enjoys doing that. Like I have a guys' night on Thursdays with my brother and my dad
Yeah.
every week.
Oh,
We
that's
call
awesome.
it Thirsty Thursdays,
There you go.
and so we kind of cook and we'll make a meal. Someone will make a meal, and we'll all just describe what would have been better afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like my passion.
That's very cool. Was your
Yeah.
family always very family oriented? Did you have your grandparents around a lot? Did you have a lot of close family?
Um, I think my aunt lived with us for a bit, and then
Yeah.
my uncle lived with us for a bit. Um, yeah, I'd say
It seems like you guys enjoy being around each other.
sometimes. Definitely sometimes.
What was your best hazing for your brother that you did when in the younger days?
Oh gosh. We we're very close now. Like he's
Okay.
my best friend. But when we were growing up, you would have like summer vacation and neither of you had jobs yet. Parents are at work, so you're just kind
Yeah.
of busying yourself for the day. We would get sick of each other, definitely a couple weeks in. So I can't remember a lot, but we would scream at each other, just like brother sister
Oh, absolutely.
arguments.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if he whipped it at me or if I whipped it at him, but a hose, like with the hose head.
Love it.
Yeah. Or I remember like I don't know, he asked for a hot chocolate or for me to make him something and I just completely put like cold water in it or like
No chance.
dirt or something. I don't even know. It was
Yeah.
something crazy.
I remember my sister was older, and as soon as she got the car, like my parents would be working, and she would just try to leave as quickly as possible, so she didn't like have to drive me anywhere. It's like, oh, I sorry, I left with the car. And back then, I think we shared a cell phone, so there was like, I
Yeah.
can't like we have a floater cell phone, but you have the car, so you get the phone. So I was like, all right, I'll just go walk somewhere or ride my
Yeah.
bike somewhere like that. That's fine.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
as far as schooling goes and next steps when you're finishing up high school, what's the discussion around where you're going career wise?
Hmm. I had always had the dream to go to school,
Hmm.
and no one in my family really did except one person.
Yeah,
Um, and it just wasn't in the cards for me at that moment.
yeah.
So my graduating year was when COVID hit.
Oh no!
Yeah, so grade 12. My second semester, I think I went to one class and then I just decided to work full time and
Yeah.
passed, thankfully. So, and then I did start business school online, but
Hmm.
I'm a very hands-on learner. I don't do
Absolutely.
very well with um watching PowerPoints and picking up the information that way.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just got into full-time work. Like
Hmm.
I worked at Rona and then I have been working as a house painter for
Hmm.
just over 3 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should go back to school or
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what my next steps are, honestly.
So what?
But I did have the dream to
Yeah.
go to school, and I always wanted to own a cafe. That's been kind of
Ooh.
in the back of my head my
Ooh,
whole life.
break that down. Where did that initially come from? What's the cafe going to be called? What are we doing?
Uh, so I've loved baking my whole life.
Okay.
I There was always something in the kitchen. My mom would come home from work, and there'd be flour over every inch of the kitchen.
Perfect.
So I wanted to call it like the bookshelf cafe because I wanted like nice couches and books and a fireplace and everything like that. Um, but brick and mortar is pretty expensive to run a
Yeah.
business. So, um, yeah, I have a bunch of ideas, but don't know
Yeah.
how to get it into motion, I guess.
You just need a couple backers. You just need one thing to go viral, and then you'll
That's
be good to go.
exactly.
Are you a big coffee person then? Do you go to a lot of cafes?
I love going to cafes. I don't
Okay.
know why, but trying out a new place and seeing how they decorate because now I'm a painter, so I have a lot
Yeah.
of like construction knowledge and like
Yeah.
to see how they've kind of set up their area. It's always fun to go and critique and see what I would do differently.
Mhm.
Um, my boyfriend actually doesn't like coffee, so it's kind of a
No, that happens. I never drank it growing up, so
yeah,
it's like I'm fine with the smell of it, but I'm like, who actually likes this stuff? Like,
yeah,
like it's like alcohol. You had to drink it consistently,
yeah.
be a peer pressure to actually start enjoying these
Well,
things.
that's the thing because I didn't like it when I first started, but
Yeah,
there's a show Pretty Little Liars that I grew up
yeah,
watching,
yeah,
and they would always just pour their black coffee into their to-go mug and go to school.
yeah.
And oh, that's such a cute
Probably, probably can I have a kiss, or are you leaving? Yeah.
dog.
Like, I just want to see who you're talking to.
Is
Yeah.
that part border collie?
It's just this is all Australian Shepherd.
Oh, really?
He is very small, and everyone's like, "Oh, is that a mini?" I'm like, "Nope, she's just
Oh,
little. She's
the
just little."
runt. That's so sweet.
I was so happy. I go to sleep right here.
um,
Pretty Little Liars. They drink
yes,
like
okay. So they would fill their to-go cup and just go to school. And I was like, oh, they're so cool. They have their coffee going to school. And so I taught myself how to like it, and now
yeah.
I love it.
It's such a wild take. Like I'll drink my wife's because sometimes she'll do black coffee, but she gets a Starbucks order that's like a caramel something. I'm like, this coffee? Like this tastes phenomenal. Like I don't really think this is coffee.
I don't love sweet so much. I
Okay.
When I went on my road trip out west this summer, I kind of learned how to love black coffee because it's just
Yeah.
so much easier to make it that way and
Okay.
kind of cheaper, honestly, too, when you don't
Yeah.
have a bunch of sweet.
Did you do a lot of road trips previously, like inside Canada, or were you just like, I'm gonna give this
It
road
was
trip
actually
a
the
shot?
first time I had left Ontario. Like,
Oh,
obviously, I had,
just sending it.
yeah. I drove all from Ontario to BC,
Okay.
and I've
British
gone to,
Columbia. I know that one. I know that one.
oh, sorry. Yes, British Columbia. Yeah, I drove out there. I just kind of wanted to change it up. I was
Yeah.
out for like a month, I believe. I slept on the back of my car
Love it.
and had a little barbecue and a cooler and my things, and I just drove and stopped when I wanted to and
Yeah.
slept in rest areas. Um,
Was there any times where you're like, this maybe wasn't such a good idea, or was sometimes better than others?
there's definitely low points. Like
Okay.
when you don't have someone that you know and you can have a hug or
Yeah.
human connection. Obviously, I would chat and I met some people out there, but just like someone
Yeah.
that you know deeply.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a dream that I had my whole life, what to
Okay.
travel and go out west.
Yeah.
And I was intending to stay out there, but it just wasn't in the cards for me at that point, and so I
Yeah.
came back home to my family.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be back out there at some
Were
point.
were you trying to pick up some work there, or like what was your idea? Did you find
Yeah.
a cafe that you were gonna take over? Or?
I had a couple thoughts. And I think if I worked a bit harder, maybe I could have, but it was nice for a vacation to
Yeah.
drive out there and just experience it without the hassle of work or finding somewhere to live. So, and I had a boy at home that I was
Yeah. Oh,
excited to come back
yep.
to.
Yep. That helps. That helps bring you back.
Yeah.
As far as going through the COVID stuff, what was it like for you? Did you guys have to stay in your home for an extended period of time? And like, how did you pass the time? Because my wife and I, we would just do activities pretty much all the time. We would just go rollerblade, walk, and just like
Really?
we would do a bunch of stuff. And then like but it was like people would like cross the road when they'd see us. I'm like, what is like there's like
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But also we were we are very healthy people, so we were very optimistic on
Yeah.
that.
So was my
We're like,
family.
yeah, we're like, we're good here.
Yeah.
But how did you guys have to more or less navigate that whole
So I had my job throughout the whole thing because people were still building stuff. It was
you were
just,
essential. Nice.
yeah, it was just changed a little bit. So people weren't coming into the store the entire time. It was kind
Yeah.
of a curbside pickup deal.
Okay.
Um,
How nice was that?
it was really cool because we could just blare music inside and like not have people everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was also very hard because you were only allowed, unless you had like a cash account with us or whatever, you were
Yeah.
only allowed to do an online order. We weren't
Okay.
allowed to take cards for your period of time. So
Yeah.
people were getting angry with us when they would show up expecting to pick something up and they weren't able to right that second.
I would say a lot of the time if I was ever going to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, it was mostly like they go in the morning to get whatever they need and so on and so forth. So why weren't people allowed to accept cards?
Just over the phone. I think it was like an insurance reason with our company or something like
Okay.
that. At some point, we did have a cash register outside because we had a
Okay.
garden center.
Yeah.
So, we kind of did what we had to with big orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but we tried to accommodate everyone as well as we could. But we had probably hundreds of orders on our online
Yeah.
like
For
site that we
you.
were on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hectic, but it
Oh,
definitely
I bet.
tested the limits and you show your resilience.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
after you would be done at work, would you just go home, or is that pretty much like you had to go and get home by a certain
Yeah,
time, or just?
I kind of blocked it out honestly, but no. No, but
That's
I lived
probably a good move. That's
it.
probably a
Yeah.
good move. We'll get to the how you got to where you're working now, but I'm always interested in perception of how either other countries or other people think of the US, because I see like what the news is when I'm here, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, it's this side's fighting, this side's fighting, this side's fighting, and then like I'll go to either Scotland or Europe or Canada. I'm like, this news is just like a lot nicer. Like this is I feel like you guys are just a lot like, I would say
Yeah,
it's not as aggressive as an approach as our news takes.
I'd assume it's probably less aggressive.
Okay.
It's a lot of negativity. I don't like to watch
Yeah.
the news all that much. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
And like what's the sentiment from you guys as far as like when you look at your neighbor down south, the good US?
Well, you get the Trump talk a lot. So there's definitely there's still Trump flags flying here too,
Yeah.
or people that are obviously heavy against it, just
Hmm.
depending on where you stand with that. Um, I hear a lot of, well, I don't know, just the overall kind of stereotype is that Americans are mean, but
Yeah.
as we've already gone over, I've met nothing but nice people when I was down there.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
on the internet, I would say everyone's mean, but then when you talk to the people, it's like, hey, like, well, your tweet that you sent out 13 seconds ago does not sound like the person that I'm talking to right now. Like that's wild.
yeah.
Do you feel like that's just what's presented to you online, or where are you seeing that from?
Hmm, maybe. But
Yeah,
also, like some of my family members, I think have maybe just not looked at the positive side or had bad experiences or something like that.
yeah,
Um, but it's always nice to experience things yourself because you can find out that it's not always as it seems.
yeah. Well, I think it's tough because either if you're left or right, you get 100% of either the good stuff or you get 100% of the bad stuff, and that's just generally not how it goes.
You can
Um,
find the answer for your question in both ways. You know what I
yes.
mean?
Yeah. For you guys up there, I'm not great with politics, but things seem to be changing up there for you guys as well. A little bit, not so much.
I just like to live my life and see what happens day to day. I don't know what.
Yeah. Is there anything locally that seems to be affecting you guys? Because I feel like for us, I've been talking to more friends and groups around that it's like, oh, hey, these are the things that are actually affecting us. I'm like, oh, like that's interesting. Yeah, we got the big things that everyone complains about, but is that affecting me this second? Not so much. So, like, is there anything locally that you're like, oh, this is interesting?
No, I think my community surrounding me is pretty pro trying to improve the community.
Okay,
Like
that's
there,
nice.
yeah, our my little town is very like there's a Facebook page and there's Instagram like or like all the communities are very they try to make the park very nice in the winter and
Yeah,
there's always community building events and things like that.
yeah,
Um so I think if I was focusing on stuff that was more problematic, I might be aware of it, but I
yeah.
like to just look at the positives.
Oh, no, I think that's great. As far as like the community building stuff, is that from the like the governmental employees that are putting this stuff on, or is it from just local members that are like, hey, I kind of want us to just like show
I
up?
think it's both. I
Okay.
think there's like a council for my town
Yeah.
that but also stores, like individual stores kind of throw events also
Oh,
or
that's nice.
yeah. Um and there's our farmers market. So when you
Hmm.
go down to the farmers market, people are so there's just so much love when you go there, you know? I love
That's
it.
good. I feel like it's very tough. I live in an HOA with there's probably
Mm,
a minimum of 700 people here, and maybe I see 5 to 10 a day, and like I'll try to wave to all of them, but it's
yeah.
like, what are you guys all doing? You leave in the morning, you come home, drive into your garage, close your door, and it's just
Uh
like I don't know if everyone's just so busy and burnt out or
yeah.
like what the situation is, but I just remember growing up and be like, oh, so and so is walking over. Like you would try not to see somebody because if you did, you know you're talking to them. But and
Yeah.
now like I'll just linger trying to talk to people. I'm like,
I yes. I
what's going
remember
on here?
growing up like that also, and I do live in a
Yeah,
pretty small town, so when you're walking down the street, I like to smile and wave and say hello to
yeah,
everyone, and they will respond. But then when you walk like downtown Toronto, which is
yeah,
probably just over an hour away from me roughly,
yeah,
um, you say hi or like hold a door, and
yeah.
there's not as many smiles or
Oh
any
no.
yeah. People are not as present or willing to talk like that.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting because I don't know if it's like the work hours or just I guess in Canada it seems to be the same, but just seems like everyone's busy. They got their own stuff going on, not as much time to relax.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Also, during this time of year, since it's dark so much later, you just kind of want to go inside and
Yeah.
hibernate. I completely understand that.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So as far as moving on to the job you had now, you were working at it's called Rona, right?
Mhm.
By the way, rough name for the coronavirus. That's I mean that's that is that is a tough roll of the dice. It's like
That's funny.
ooh, that's hard out there. But how did you transition into the job that you have now?
I think at the beginning, I was so eager to learn an actual trade
Yeah,
because when I was at Rona, I was seeing all the different
right.
tools and parts and everything like that. I was so like I just wanted to be hands-on so desperately.
Yeah.
And I was also pretty stagnant at that
Okay.
job.
Yeah.
I was getting bored of it. And then I was just applying online to different things, like whatever just kind of piqued my fancy and that I thought I was capable to do. And I found this job, and it's a very small company, but a very high-end painting company.
Yeah.
So he like took me under his wing, and I learned a lot.
Okay.
So it's interior and exterior painting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I would see all these different homes, like century homes with cool. I learned how to repair the windows and
Hmm.
um, drywalling, and I did flooring.
Yeah.
So a lot of very valuable knowledge.
What would you say that it's since it is a smaller company, they care more of the employees than just kind of hammer kind of
100%.
situation? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If I needed to take a break, like if I got too hot in the summer, like take a
Yeah.
break. You don't want to be hurting or in pain. Um, we would get coffees for everyone
Yeah.
every now and then. And um, it was like I would dog sit for him occasionally when their family went out. Like it was a very like he felt
Yeah.
like another work dad in a sense. Like,
That's nice. So
yeah.
I did construction for 5 years and I worked natural gas pipeline.
Hmm.
So anywhere from like a 12-inch diameter to a 40-inch. So just the big stuff, the thing that was
Yeah.
hauling the large things. So
Mhm.
it was relatively good money because we would get time and a half after 40 hours, and we would usually work a minimum of 60 all the way up to 100 hours a week. So
Wow.
that like I was making very good money, but the environment was, for lack of a better word, very toxic because if you want to be making that money year round, half of it was union, half of it was the company side. So you needed to either suck up to the company side or the union had to really like you. So
Hmm.
if you weren't the top guy or like the second to top guy, you were usually trying to take that other guy's job. So
Oh, the hierarchy.
everyone was always just fighting over it. And me, I was like, you know what? I don't have multiple ex-wives and really expensive things. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. Like, I don't need to be working as long as you guys are. So,
Yeah.
like, whenever the layoff would come around, like, everyone kind of like ducked their head. They didn't want to talk about it. I'd be like, yeah, I just worked for 3 months. Like, I'm good. I don't need to work again for a couple of months. Like,
Yeah.
let me go. And everyone would be so confused. I'm like, I just made a bunch of money, guys. Where is your money? I mean, I knew where their money was going. They were just
Golden
awful.
handcuffs
Yeah.
all down the drain.
Yeah, it's like the worst thing for a construction worker is a rain day. They would just go and buy something for an excessive amount of money.
Yeah.
But as far as culture goes, what is it like for you working? You already said it was a pretty nice workspace already.
Yeah. It's very homey in a
Yeah.
sense. I've been there for just over 3 years now. So
Mhm.
in a sense, I feel like I've learned what I can,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
It is getting like it's more mundane. It's more mundane, and you're doing the same thing all the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, But it is, yeah, I don't know. It's a very nice,
They pay well.
the best I've ever been paid so far,
Yes.
yes.
So my cousin, he works for a very nice restaurant in Toronto.
Mm,
Uh, it's a full-time job. That's where people end their careers. They're making six figures. What it like that's what they do.
mhm.
Um, and I think before he was working there, he had other aspirations. I should probably call him before I if see if it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
But like he was working at another restaurant where he's like, oh man, like this is kind of a lot more fun. I get more of this, I get more of this. But now that he's at this, he is now, I think, working full time at the prestigious one and making a lot more money.
Hmm.
And I think he's like, yeah, like this is good right now.
Yeah.
But it seems like you'd like to possibly move on and accelerate your learning. Would that be another position at this job, or what are you looking at these days?
Um, it's a very secluded job.
Okay.
Like I'm with myself and there's three other employees.
Yeah.
Um, we're just kind of like sand and trim in the basement or whatever it is. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit isolating, and I really crave to be around people again because I
Yeah.
really enjoy hearing people's different stories and stuff like that. So I'm really not sure. I've been
Start a
thinking,
podcast.
yeah, maybe. I always had this little dream in the back of my head to be a little content creator, YouTuber.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll see me on the charts
There
in
we
a couple
go.
months. But I think I might go to the restaurant industry for a little bit
Yeah.
um until I figure out what's the next step for myself.
How do you go about making big decisions in your life? Are you writing things down? Are you going to your parents? How does that happen for you?
I'm a very spontaneous person.
Let's go.
I
Got an
would
idea
love
of
to
going on
not.
a road trip.
Yes, that is what happened. I kind of quit my job and left, but um but I really think I need to, sit down and write this one out a little
Yeah.
bit before I do anything spontaneous because, your job is your lifeline and it is supporting me for what I need at right now. But I do, like we were talking about before, kind of need to get some more education. I don't need
Yeah.
to. I think I'm very well in different ways. I might not go back
Yeah.
college per se or whatever, but I might, take a couple classes here and there.
Hmm.
So I might, yeah, do some serving and
What in the last, we'll say, like 5 or 10 years, if someone asks you, like, "Oh, what's a memory that either like makes you smile or laugh?" What's something that like immediately pops into your head?
my nana is a person that I could talk for hours with
Okay.
and be like cry laughing because we just kind of have the same brainwave. um, so I remember going out with my great grandma and my nana and my brother as well. And we were at a grocery store. And honestly, my family can just laugh at anything. It wasn't, let me come up with a better answer. I've got some pretty crazy. I
Hey,
don't
I,
know.
I like the laughter. You take your time. I'll drink the 100th sip of my water. I don't know why it's so dry down here today, but we're drinking a lot of
No.
water here today.
All right. Mm, okay.
Yep.
My mom and dad, before anyone would have to get in the car, they would either lock the door and drive away, and then you would not know where the car was in a very funny way. Like they would still be there, they would not have left. Or they would lock the door and say that you had to dance before you got in. So you'd be in
Love
the
it.
middle of a parking lot with people around you, and you had to like do a little shimmy to be allowed back into the car.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was really funny.
I'm 100%. I'm trying to figure out the next time I'll be driving with my wife. But the yes or no, I think it was today. My wife was looking for a Kindle because she likes to read. if she's either breastfeeding or putting the baby down. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I know where it is. If you are nice to me right now, I will tell you exactly where it is. She's like, nope, I'm not being nice to you. I don't. I'm just gonna keep looking for it. And she found it, and she's like, see, I don't have to be nice to you. And I was
Oh,
like,
that
dang
is
it.
so funny.
But
A
I like the car one, 100%.
little
But
tough love.
yeah,
It's
the
it's
problem
funny.
is she's gonna have just put one of the children in the car, and I'm gonna have to beat her while me putting one of the children in the car. But I think I can make it work. Be like, yeah, I saw this on a podcast once. It's supposed to be very good for healthy relationships.
Yeah, a little playfulness never hurt no one.
Absolutely. So we'll finish up with the last two questions that everyone gets. What's your definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what is health to you?
Well, I really enjoy food. So that's my big health focal point. I
Yeah,
love to eat whole foods. I'm not always the best at it,
yeah,
obviously, moderation, but I love trying to make new recipes with different macros and different nutrients and everything like
yeah,
that. And also moving my body, but I'm less inclined to do it in a disciplined, strict way and more in a playful, maybe dance around to some music or go for a jog.
yeah.
Um, just I like to have fun. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of I need to incorporate that for my health.
I love that. And then what's something from your life that you think people listening to the podcast would be able to take away as a positive?
Hmm. Well, I mean, this might not be 100% positive, but everyone is going through some things.
Okay.
Like your worst, if some everyone's worst is the worst thing they've gone through, depending on the level that it is for each individual.
Yeah,
So treat everyone kindly and just know that the same things you're going through, someone else is feeling also.
absolutely. I love that. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Vital Athlete. And listen up, this could make a real difference. I've been using Vital Athlete Freeze Roll On for the last 6 months. I stopped using regular painkillers about 10 years ago because of the negative side effects on your liver and kidneys. Vital Athletes understands this. They've created a CBD roll on specifically for pain and injury relief. Their Freeze Roll On gives you fast acting relief right where you need it, so you can keep going. If you care about getting the most out of every workout, then Vital Athlete is for you.